Hey guys, welcome back to this episode of the MSR Workshop. So I've got a treat for you today. We're going to be doing a quick unboxing of my new 80-watt Omtech CO2 Laser. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on unboxing. It's going to be more of a time lapse just because there's some other videos that kind of go step by step through that process. But you're going to see what I did to uncrate the thing. And side note, for anybody who orders one of these, they come in a massive crate. The crate weighed over 100 pounds just by itself. It's some of the best packing that I've seen on any tool that I have in this entire shop. And then I'm going to be going through the process of doing a bunch of upgrades. This box right here is a bunch of upgrades. One, we're going to be installing a LightBurn camera. We're also going to be upgrading the air assist to a compressor style air assist instead of the little pump that comes with it. We are going to be installing LED lighting in the machine, and we're also going to be installing the inline fan upgrade as well as an external chiller instead of the bucket. So I'm going to be doing a multi-part series on this. First thing we're going to be doing today is doing the unboxing, and then we're going to be working on installing the ductwork for the ventilation for the machine. So stay tuned. So this brief unboxing here, I had to deal with this massive crate, and the crate probably weighed 150 to 200 pounds. But the cool thing about it, has some really nice wood on it. And as expensive it is sheet goods are right now, definitely keep this wood and you can get some projects out of it, even use it as practice wood. Now it's not going to be as good as premium basswood, but I definitely keep it. Alright guys, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to open these back panels up. You just pull them out and you swivel them down, and then this will just fold right down. And this is our inline ductwork for our air extraction, and that's really kind of cool. So I don't know if you can see that on the camera. So the air assist is mounted on a vibration stand, which allows it to move and vibrate without shaking the whole machine. So it looks like I'm going to need a Phillips screwdriver to unscrew this. Yeah, so I'm going to grab that. I'll be right back. Okay, we're back. So in this shot, I'm taking off the internal fume extraction tubing. And one thing you'll notice if you look kind of peeking out there is there are some foam pads that the bed is lowered down on. One thing that I think Omtech needs to pay attention to is when they lower this bed all the way down, actually the bed pushes the air or the fume extraction tubing down on the chain that raises and lowers the bed, and you risk putting a hole in this because the chain is dragging against this tubing. Now this part was really easy to install or uninstall and then reinstall. It's just kind of sandwiched in there, and you just have some little Phillips screws to do this. There you go. Now, one really cool thing, hopefully you can see this, there's levers on either side, they're spring-loaded, and you just pull in and your door can come off, making it super nice so you can get at the wiring track that's right down here at the bottom. If I can get it off, hiding our cables and wiring around to the side. This has a single stepper motor to raise and lower the bed, but it's quite substantial. I mean, if you can see my hand, it's bigger than my hand. So it's not a dinky motor by any means. I don't know how heavy this bed is, but alright, so while we're down here, it's interesting, they have the fan module wired together with the air assist, so they are wired in the same bunch of wires. And since we're upgrading our air assist, we need to go ahead and just take this out while we're here. It's the same spot. So now that I'm on this side, figure out where my black wires are. The wires, you can pinch these receptacles in and then push them out the other side and get at them. So here's this one with our ground. And we'll go ahead and loosen there. Separate that one. Interestingly enough, they soldered a lot of these wires together, and then they put them in together. They didn't just twist them. So that's a nice touch. Okay, that looks good. Then we can just put that back in. And then this guy, same thing. Alright, so next we are going to open the box for this Cloudline inline duct fan. And this thing should put out a lot more CFM. Make sure there's no smoke in the machine, which in turn will cut down the amount of soot on your lenses in your laser. We have our airflow directions. So airflow, we want it sucking away, so we want our arrows pointed up. So this part was extremely simple. It's kind of a clamshell design, so you have your top and bottom that clamshells with these two clamps here. You just loosen the clamps, and then the middle section, which is the fan controller, actually comes out, and then it makes it possible so you can get the screw holes behind. And then I just mounted it on the wall here where I thought it would be a good position. This particular laser, the ductwork comes out of the back where some of the others come out through the side. And here I'm just screwing it to my wall, and I'm using just some Craig screws. And I like the Craig screws because they don't strip out, and these particular ones have like kind of a washer head on them, so it makes it a real secure design. All right, so the next item on the agenda for the install is I picked up two of these 6-inch flanges, and what I'm going to do is look up here on my ceiling of my garage and poke a hole in the ceiling and then climb up on my attic, figure out where these need to be mounted, and then I'm going to cut a hole in the ceiling of my attic and run ductwork up to the ridgeline venting that I have currently on my house. And so the nice thing about that is I'm hoping that I'm not having to do any modification to my roof. So I know some people will actually put an actual vent and cut the shingles in their roof and do all that. I don't want to have to cut a hole in my roof. That just sounds terrifying, and I don't want it to leak and have to worry about that. And if I ever move, you know, I want it to pass code and inspection and all that too. So just a small hole in the drywall up here, and then we'll be installing flex tubing in the attic up to the ridgeline venting, and then it should just blow up out there in theory. So let's get a hole marked for this, and I'll climb up there and take a look, and hopefully it's the right spot. So I got this marked and mounted where I thought it would be, and then I sticked a wire puller up in the ceiling and then went up and found it where it was in the attic just to make sure that I had enough space. I barely had enough crawl space up there, and this was kind of miserable and hot. Now the way I cut the hole here wasn't the best way, and it's one of the more messy ways. There's two ways you can do it. One, I have a circle cutting bit that I use in my drill press, and you can adjust the size The other way is just to buy a specific 6-inch hole cutting saw, say off Amazon, and it might be a little bit less messy than this particular one was, but in any case, I had it. I didn't want to buy another one, so I was a cheapskate and did it this way. So next, I went ahead and screwed that up there, put the screws through, and then connected my ductwork, and on the other side, I have the same type of fitting, and I just sandwiched the two together and then just put some little screw nuts to hold the two halves together. So I have a mounting thing that I could mount my ductwork on in the attic. Screwed the bottom on. I didn't actually attach it to the laser yet because I was still got more stuff to do. And then I crawled up there with the dust mask and crawled around in insulation, which I hate doing, and insulation is terrible, and yeah, I don't like insulation. Now this particular ductwork is 25 foot, so it was more than adequate to reach up to the ceiling here. And then I just bought like a heat and air kind of register sized weird little fitting, and I just screwed it to the plywood up in my roof, and then created kind of a shroud that sealed that one section off so it wasn't just squirting out the sides when the fan was on, so hopefully just directing it out all through this vent here. And I just used some scrap cardboard, and then I just used some metal weather stripping tape to tape any little gaps and seams, and then I used a little pneumatic stapler that I stapled some of it up there. And here's a shot of what it looked like when it was finished, and I had it videoed, but my camera light died, so I apologize for the lighting. But it actually worked pretty darn good, and I've crawled up there a couple times and couldn't see any smoke escaping. Okay guys, so let's recap what we've just done. This is a big pain in the butt, but it worked. So what we did was we cut a hole in the ceiling, ran two 6-inch fittings on either side and kind of clamshelled them together, and ran screws through the two, so there's two halves. So each side of this hose mates up to that. And then ran this 25-foot hose to the ridgeline venting in my attic, where I'd had a AC kind of a register style opening. So it was a little small square long thing with a 6-inch opening that I ran up to the ridgeline venting. And then I made myself a shroud to kind of seal that off so it just doesn't pour out with it blowing in. Then I turned it on, ran up and checked in my attic. I was getting good airflow up there. So the real trick is when I turn the laser on and see how much smoke actually escapes from this into my attic. Hopefully none, but yeah. So now that we've got this finished, we are going to go and hook up the upgraded air assist. So let's get that done. So the first thing we are going to put together is this guy here, which is our water separator, and we are going to put a fitting on it. So this guy here, and we need to put Teflon tape on everybody. And it says in, so the air is going to go in here and out that way. And this one right here, which doesn't say anything, is going to be our little regulator. Now the other side is our out. Use this guy. Next, we are going to open up our solenoid valve, and this guy comes off here. This unscrews here. And this is where we're going to run our wires through. So in my case, I'm going to need to switch this the other way, because when this is on, I need to be able to access both of these, and that was pointed down and was blocking the hole there. So let's go ahead and screw both of these fittings on. So we'll need two large fittings with more Teflon tape. And I'm using a 14 millimeter. Okay, now we need to wire up this with a length of wire, and we'll go ahead and get a set of red and black wire. So I got our length of wire here, and I'm using red and green, even though that's technically a ground wire, still the same gauge. And I didn't have any black, so go ahead and strip these and get those put in here. Now, according to the other person that's done this, it doesn't matter which side you put the in because you are just completing a loop. So it's just opening and closing, but we will find out if I hook this up wrong. Okay, now we are going to go ahead and mount this to the wall. It comes with this little bracket. So this screws off. This bracket mounts through here. That screws back on. Then you can mount this regulator to the wall. This guy goes to your compressor. You have a length of tubing going from your compressor to this. And then you have another length of tubing going from here to here. And then the last is here to your existing air assist tubing. So let's turn the camera around and do that. So opening up the back of the machine, your air assist normally was coming in here. Actually, that was exhaust. But this is the tube going to your existing air assist hooked up. So we're going to use that. And a lot of people have mounted on the outside. I want to make it as clean as possible. So we are actually going to mount it on the inside right here. So I'm going to attach this with some 3M and make sure that I've got it going the right direction and have enough slack. So let's see. In, that would be output. Go ahead and press that one in there. Now I've pulled the cover off to the wire track here, and I'm using one of these little wire blocks, and it's going to connect to the one over here that says wind. So this should just plug in right there, wind and 24 volt, snap right in. So we'll go ahead and screw our wires into there. Now we're going to take our coil of tubing, pass it through there, reach around to the other side, feed it to the hole there, and then plug it right on top there. Now we're going to take this and cut the length of run that you want to get your regulator over here. And I'm going to leave this long because in case I want to scoot the machine out, I can, and I'll have a lot of wiggle room to do that. And it comes with this nice little cutter tool. There we go. I'll run that behind there and just plug this into the one that says out. And this will just sit behind the machine. You'll really never see it. Now, last but not least, I should be able to cut a run for this fitting. And I'm going to leave just a little extra on that, and I don't necessarily need to. Fortunately, they gave you lots of extra. So if you do make a little mistake, you'll have extra. So this will fit right into there. Just snug that up. This will plug into here. So in theory, when I plug this into my air compressor, all the air is not going to leak out. All right, guys, now that everything is hooked up, we need to go into LightBurn. So this is a blank screen of LightBurn. The first thing you're going to do is you have to load a project up to here, because if you try to do what we're going to do now, you're going to get an error every time. So I'm going to go down to my art library and just pick something random. Let's see, art library, and this is going to ant. Now, if it looks like that and it doesn't have all the little lines around it, it's not selected. So go ahead and highlight the whole thing, select the whole thing, and now we're going to go up to Edit and Machine Settings. And this will load the controller. If you get an error message, you've done one of two things. One, you don't have something on the board, or two, you haven't highlighted your project. So now we are going to scroll down to vendor settings, which should be all the way at the bottom. And we are going to go to enable air assist output. Right now it is clicked to false. We are going to go hit it to true. And last but not least, we are going to say right. And that is going to save it. Hit OK. And just for fun, let's go back in here. Let's go ahead and delete this just to make sure it's not saving it to a specific program. And that's kind of weird looking. Oh, that's a butterfly. We're going to go to Edit Tools, Machine Settings, Reading Controller, Vendor Settings, Enable Air Assist Output, and it's still connected to True. So when you turn your project on, it will automatically start and stop. So this next part here, you will need a little bit more black and red wire or whatever colors you have at your availability. But we are installing a 24-volt LED strip lights that will go all around the perimeter. Now this has got 3M adhesive on the back. We'll just cut this plug off because it's a red and black in here and just wire it onto here. So next we are going to clean around the edge of the bed because we are going to install the LED lighting around this frame in here, but we need to make sure that we don't have any grease or anything all over the bed. So now we are going to go ahead and install our LED lights. And we're going to start in this corner here and work our way around. And we're going to place it in the middle of this ridge here because then it'll clear these screws in the back. So we're back to this side again with all the wires, and you can see this is where we fed our wires through, and we're going to run it through this strip here and connect it to this power bank here, and these are all 24 volt. Now they've done a really good job and labeled everything where we can see everything is labeled 24 volt, and these say ground on them. All right, moment of truth, guys. Let's go ahead and turn this on. And we'll push that button. And that is insanely bright. Wow. Okay, I definitely recommend these LED strips. They are the brightest LED strips that I have personally purchased before, and it makes a night and day difference compared to the one that's currently installed. And the one that's currently installed is more of a blue colored LED. This is more of a daylight colored, so much nicer on the eyes. And when we get the LightBurn camera installed, This is really, really going to help that picture and keep it from being grainy, because whenever you have a low light situation, even if it's a high quality camera, it can't perform good usually in a low light situation. So this is a game changer. All right guys, so next on our to-do list is to hook up the chiller. Now the chiller is really simple to hook up. You have an inlet and an outlet on the back of your chiller, and you have an in and an out on the back of your laser. So you would hook the out on the chiller to the in on the laser, and the in on the chiller to the out on the laser. So each side has to have an alternating an in and an out. So you don't want to hook the in to the in and the out to the out. You want to have one side's an in, one side's an out, the other side in and an out. And that's really it. Then you just fill it up with water, and you do have a fill gauge on the back. And what I'm going to do is just going to go ahead and glue a mirror back there so you can actually see behind the machine without having to pull it out every time. Now I'm not going to go into the settings on this machine. You can just turn it on and let it do its thing pre-programmed from the factory. But there is also a setting where you can have an absolute temperature and set it to a pre-programmed temperature, and just to keep it at that. But there are some great videos on YouTube on setting that up. Next on the thing to do list is I'm just going to show you how I quickly set up the LightBurn camera. So going in the inside of the machine, I have mounted to the top frame of my machine, ran it down along the side with some sticky, and then used the holes that were already in the machine itself to run my cord. And I ran it out there, and then there is a hole in the back corner there that I was able to run it out on the back, and it's just a USB, and then I just bought a USB extension cable and connected it directly to the computer. And I will have an upcoming video on the really awesome things that you can do with having a LightBurn camera. And I think all machines should come with a camera because it makes setting up things so much more simple and easy to use, and you can just really dial it in, and there's no guesswork. So as we come to the close of this video, let's do a quick recap on what we did. We started with removing the existing air assist and the existing smoke extractor fan. Once we took those out and took the wires out, then we went ahead and installed our ductwork in our ceiling, got that hooked up. Then next we moved on to assembling the air assist system. All the little parts, just kind of lay them out, and it's quite simple. You just screw the settings of fittings together, and they're all press fit fittings, so it's really not hard to do. Next we moved on to installing the lights. The lights was actually quite simple as well. You just wired into an existing 24-volt strip that's available in here. And then we installed the chiller, and last but not least, the LightBurn camera. Now I know I didn't go through the chiller or the LightBurn camera install because there's some great videos on those already online, but the chiller is extremely simple to set up. LightBurn camera is also quite easy to set up. Now once you get into LightBurn itself, there are quite a few more steps as far as aligning the camera properly and setting it up for your machine bed size. Now mine is the 180-degree camera that I got, and it works really well. And the next video that I will release will go over some quick tips on how to make that LightBurn camera just really change how you set up your projects. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit that thumb up button, and if you have any comments or suggestions, leave them below, and stay tuned for the next video that I release. Thanks, guys.